The wine glass trembled in Jessica Walsh's hand as the realization sank in. He wasn't coming back. Her blind date, Brian, had excused himself to take a phone call 15 minutes ago, leaving Jessica alone at the corner table of Bellini's, one of the most expensive restaurants in downtown Boston. At first she had scrolled through her phone, pretending to be occupied, but as the minutes ticked by, the pit in her stomach grew. When the waiter passed by for the third time with a sympathetic glance, Jessica finally understood. She had been abandoned. "Would you care for another glass of wine, ma'am?" the waiter asked, his voice carefully neutral. Jessica's cheeks burned as she glanced at the half-empty wine glass that had cost $16. "No, thank you. Just the check, please." As the waiter nodded and walked away, Jessica opened her worn leather wallet with trembling fingers. $7.32. That's all she had in cash. The babysitter was already costing her $40 for the evening, money she had justified spending because Melissa from work had insisted that Brian was such a great guy and perfect husband material. Jessica had even splurged on a new blouse from the clearance rack, the price tag of $24.99 still making her wince when she thought about it. From across the restaurant, Marcus Reed observed the woman's distress. Seated alone at his usual corner table where he could survey both the restaurant and the street outside, Marcus had noticed the pretty brunette when she first arrived. Her nervous excitement had been evident as she smoothed down her blouse and checked her reflection in her phone camera. Now that same woman looked like she was about to cry, her slender shoulders hunched forward as she stared at the small amount of cash in her wallet. Marcus took a sip of his 18-year-old scotch, his dark eyes never leaving the woman's face. As the CEO of Reed Enterprises, one of the largest property development companies on the East Coast, he was accustomed to reading people. This woman was in trouble. "Is everything all right, Mr. Reed?" asked Thomas, the restaurant manager who had personally attended to Marcus since he became a regular 5 years ago. "The woman at table 7, Marcus said quietly. "What's her situation?" Thomas discreetly glanced over. Blind date, I believe. The gentleman stepped out about 20 minutes ago. Hasn't returned." Marcus's jaw tightened. "And they've already ordered, just drinks and appetizers, but the bill is still substantial." Jessica stared at her phone, her fingers hovering over the rideshare app. Even the cheapest ride home would cost over $15, money she didn't have until payday next week. Her 5-year-old son, Noah, was waiting at home with Mrs. Hernandez from next door. The kind elderly woman had agreed to watch Noah as a favor, refusing payment, but Jessica always insisted on giving her something. Tonight would have to be different. "Excuse me." A deep voice interrupted her thoughts. Jessica looked up to find herself staring into the most intense brown eyes she had ever seen. The man standing beside her table was tall, impeccably dressed in a tailored charcoal suit that screamed money and power. His dark hair was neatly trimmed, and a subtle scent of expensive cologne drifted toward her. "I'm sorry to intrude," he continued, his voice cultured but with a hint of warmth that surprised her, "but I believe I'm an acquaintance of your companion this evening. Brian, isn't it?" Jessica's eyes widened. "Yes." "Do you know where he went? He said he had a call, but that's actually why I came over. He asked me to give you a message." The stranger's expression turned apologetic. "There's been an emergency with his mother. He had to rush to the hospital and didn't want to disturb your meal." Relief washed over Jessica, followed immediately by concern. "Oh, no. Is she all right? He could have told me. I would have understood." A flicker of something, admiration, passed across the man's face. "That's very kind of you. He wasn't sure and, well, he mentioned he'd call you tomorrow." The waiter approached with the check, and Jessica felt her panic return. The man noticed her expression and smoothly intercepted the leather folder. "Brian asked if I could take care of this. Please allow me." He pulled out a sleek black credit card without even looking at the total. "Oh, I couldn't possibly," Jessica began, but the man smiled, a genuine crinkle appearing at the corners of his eyes. "I insist. Brian and I go way back. He'd do the same for me." He handed the folder back to the waiter, who departed with a knowing nod. Jessica didn't know whether to feel relieved or suspicious. "Thank you, but I really should be going. My son is waiting at home with the sitter." The man's eyebrows raised slightly at the mention of her son, but his smile remained. "Of course. May I call you a car?" Jessica hesitated. She couldn't afford a ride, but walking to the bus stop in her heels would be painful. and the next bus wouldn't arrive for another 40 minutes. "I have a driver," the man continued, seeming to sense her dilemma. "He could take you home. No strings attached, I promise. It's already paid for and he'd just be driving me home otherwise." The sincerity in his eyes made Jessica pause. Every instinct told her to be cautious. Handsome, wealthy men didn't just offer free rides to abandoned dates. Yet something about him made her want to trust him. "I'm Marcus, by the way, Marcus Reed." He extended his hand. Jessica took it hesitantly. "Jessica Walsh." "Well, Jessica Walsh. What do you say? A safe ride home with my driver, Frank, who is 63 and has 5 grandchildren he never stops talking about?" A small laugh escaped her lips despite her anxiety. "When you put it that way, how can I refuse?" Outside, a sleek black car waited at the curb. An older man with a kind face held the door open. "Evening, miss, where can I take you tonight?" As Jessica gave her address in the modest Dorchester neighborhood, she couldn't help but notice Marcus watching her from the restaurant entrance. He raised his hand in a small wave and she returned the gesture before the car pulled away. What Jessica didn't see was Marcus returning to his table, pulling out his phone and making a call. "Detective Sawyer? It's Marcus Reed. I need information on a Brian, last name unknown. Set up a blind date tonight at Bellini's with a woman named Jessica Walsh, then ditched her with the bill. Yes, that's right, everything you can find. And one more thing. I want to know more about Ms. Walsh as well. Nothing invasive, just public information." He paused, looking out at the street where the car had disappeared. No trouble. Just curiosity." As Frank drove her home, Jessica stared out the window at the glittering city lights. For the first time in years, she felt seen in a way that had nothing to do with being Noah's mom or the office assistant at Caldwell Insurance. Marcus Reed had looked at her like she mattered. It was probably nothing, just a wealthy man doing a good deed, but as the car glided through the night, Jessica couldn't help but wonder if somehow something important had just happened. What she didn't know was how right she was, and how complicated her life was about to become. The next morning, Jessica fumbled with her keys as she rushed Noah toward the apartment door. They were running late, again. Noah had insisted on wearing his favorite dinosaur shirt, which had somehow migrated to the bottom of the laundry basket, requiring an emergency search mission. "Mom, will Ms. Paterson be mad if I'm late?" Noah asked, his blue backpack bouncing against his small frame as he hopped from one foot to the other. "No, sweetie, but we still need to hurry," Jessica replied, finally getting the stubborn lock to turn. The hallway of their apartment building smelled of someone's burnt toast and the lingering scent of cheap air freshener. It wasn't much, but it was home. A safe place she'd created for Noah after his father had walked out when Noah was just a baby, declaring he wasn't ready for this family thing. As they rushed down the 3 flights of stairs, the elevator had been temporarily out of order for the past 6 months, Jessica mentally calculated the hours until payday. 4 more days. She could make it work. She always did. "Whoa," Noah said, stopping abruptly at the building's entrance. Jessica nearly tripped over him. "Noah, what?" Jessica's words died in her throat. Parked directly in front of their building was the same sleek black car from the previous night. The driver, Frank, stood beside it, a gentle smile on his weathered face. "Good morning, Ms. Walsh," he said, tipping his cap. "Mr. Reed sent me to offer you and your son a ride this morning." Jessica blinked, certain she was hallucinating. "Mr. Reed. But how did he—" Frank smiled. "Mr. Reed is very resourceful. He thought perhaps you might appreciate a ride to your son's school and then to your workplace." Noah tugged at Jessica's sleeve. "Mom, is this our car? It's so cool." "No, honey, it's not ours." Jessica hesitated, torn between suspicion and the practical reality that a ride would save them 20 precious minutes. "Are you sure Mr. Reed asked you to do this?" "Absolutely certain, ma'am. And if it helps, he asked me to give you this." Frank handed her an envelope with her name written in bold, elegant script. Inside was a brief note on heavy, cream-colored cardstock. "Jessica, I hope this small convenience makes your morning easier. No strings attached, just paying forward a kindness once shown to me when I was struggling. My number is below if you'd like to reach out, but please don't feel obligated. Marcus Reed." A business card was paper-clipped to the note. "Reed Enterprises," it read, with Marcus's title, Chief Executive Officer. "Mom, we're going to be super late," Noah reminded her, his eyes still fixed on the luxury car. Jessica made a quick decision. "Thank you, Frank. We would appreciate the ride very much." As they settled into the buttery leather seats, Noah's eyes grew wide with excitement. "This is the fanciest car ever. Do you drive famous people?" Frank chuckled as he pulled away from the curb. "Sometimes, young man, but mostly just Mr. Reed. He works very hard." "What does he do?" Noah asked, running his hands over the armrest with its hidden compartments. "He builds things, big buildings where people work and live," Frank explained, meeting Jessica's eyes in the rearview mirror. "He's a good man." Jessica remained quiet, unsure what to make of this unexpected gesture. By the time they reached Noah's elementary school, her son was completely enchanted with Frank, having extracted promises to see pictures of all 5 grandchildren. "Have an awesome day, buddy," Jessica said, giving Noah an extra tight hug at the school entrance. "Can Frank pick us up too?" Noah whispered loudly. Jessica ruffled his hair. "Let's not get greedy, okay? Say thank you to Frank for the ride." Noah waved enthusiastically. "Thank you, Frank. Your car is the best." As they pulled away from the school, Jessica took a deep breath. "Frank, I appreciate the ride, but I have to ask, why is Mr. Reed doing this?" Frank kept his eyes on the road. "In the 5 years I've worked for Mr. Reed, I've learned he notices things others miss. He saw someone who reminded him of himself once upon a time." "What do you mean?" "Did you know he was raised by a single mother, worked his way through college, built his company from scratch?" Frank paused at a red light. "Mr. Reed doesn't talk about it much, but I've driven him a long time. You hear things." The revelation surprised Jessica. Marcus Reed, with his tailored suit and commanding presence, didn't seem like someone who had ever struggled. "Still, this is unusual." "Mr. Reed is an unusual man," Frank replied simply. When they reached Caldwell Insurance, where Jessica worked as an administrative assistant, Frank handed her another envelope. "Mr. Reed asked me to give you this as well." This envelope was thicker. Inside, Jessica found 5 crisp $20 bills and another note to repay the babysitter and the blouse. "Don't argue. We both know Brian was a jerk. Consider it his penance." Jessica's cheeks flushed. How did he know about the blouse, about the babysitter? It was thoughtful but also unnerving that he had gathered this information. "Please tell Mr. Reed thank you, but I can't accept this," she said, trying to return the envelope to Frank. The older man shook his head. "He said you'd say that. He also said to tell you that pride is a luxury not everyone can afford." Frank's kind eyes met hers. "Sometimes accepting help is the brave thing to do, Ms. Walsh." The words hit home harder than Jessica wanted to admit. With her parents both gone and no siblings, she'd been handling everything alone for so long that accepting help felt like failure. "At least take my number," she countered, scribbling it on a post-it note from her purse, "so I can thank him myself and possibly arrange to pay him back." Frank took the paper with a knowing smile. "As you wish, Ms. Walsh. Have a good day." Inside the office, Jessica was greeted by Melissa's eager face. "So, how was the date with Brian? I want every detail." Jessica set down her purse, remembering the humiliation of being abandoned. "He left in the middle of dinner, didn't come back." Melissa's mouth dropped open. "What? That absolute... I'm so sorry, Jess. He seemed so nice when I met him at my cousin's wedding." "It's fine," Jessica said, logging into her computer. "Someone helped me out, actually." She hesitated, unsure how much to share. "Who? Wait, did you meet someone else at the restaurant?" Melissa leaned in, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. Before Jessica could answer, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Good morning, Jessica. I hope Frank made your commute smoother. Would you allow me to make up for Brian's behavior with dinner this Friday? I promise not to disappear." Marcus Reed. Jessica stared at the message, her heart suddenly racing. A date with Marcus Reed, the CEO who had been kind but was clearly from a different world. "Earth to Jessica." Melissa waved a hand in front of her face. "You're blushing. Who texted you?" "The man who helped me last night," Jessica admitted. "He's asking me to dinner." Melissa snatched the phone, her eyes widening as she read. "Marcus Reed. The Marcus Reed of Reed Enterprises? Jessica, do you know who he is? His company is worth billions. They're redeveloping half the waterfront." Jessica grabbed her phone back. embarrassment washing over her. "It doesn't matter who he is. I'm not going." "Are you insane? Why not?" Melissa demanded. Jessica sighed, lowering her voice as their supervisor walked by. "Because men like that don't date women like me unless they want something. Besides, I have Noah to think about." "Or maybe he's just a decent human being who's interested in you," Melissa countered. "When was the last time you went on a real date, Jess? One that wasn't set up by well-meaning friends?" The truth was, Jessica couldn't remember. Between work, Noah, and trying to make ends meet, dating had fallen to the bottom of her priority list. "Just dinner," Melissa pressed. "I'll watch Noah. You deserve something good, Jess." Jessica looked down at the message again. Part of her wanted to say yes, the part that remembered how it felt when Marcus looked at her like she mattered. But another part, the protective shell she'd built around herself and Noah, warned her to be careful. As the day progressed, Jessica found her thoughts repeatedly drifting to Marcus. During her lunch break, she did something she rarely allowed herself. She indulged her curiosity. A quick internet search revealed dozens of articles about Marcus Reed and his company. Most highlighted his business acumen and philanthropic efforts, including a foundation that provided scholarships for children of single parents. By afternoon, Jessica had made her decision. She picked up her phone and typed, "Thank you for this morning. Dinner sounds nice, but I should warn you that I come with complications, namely a very curious 5-year-old who is the center of my world. If that doesn't scare you off, then yes." The response came almost immediately. "Not scared at all. I look forward to meeting him someday. Friday at 7? I'll send Frank." Jessica couldn't help the smile that spread across her face. For the first time in a very long time, she felt a flutter of something like hope. What she didn't know was that across town, Marcus Reed was sitting in his corner office, staring at their text exchange with a similar expression, and harboring a secret that could change everything. Friday evening arrived with a flurry of nervous energy. Jessica stood in front of her bedroom mirror, scrutinizing her appearance. She'd settled on a simple navy blue dress that she'd bought years ago for a cousin's wedding. It wasn't new or fancy, but it was the nicest thing she owned. "Mom, you look like a princess," Noah exclaimed from the doorway, his dinosaur pajamas slightly askew. Melissa had arrived early to watch him, and she'd already started their movie night with popcorn and dinosaur-shaped cookies she'd baked herself. Jessica smiled, bending down to kiss Noah's forehead. "Thank you, buddy. Are you sure you're okay with me going out tonight?" Noah nodded enthusiastically. "Melissa said we're going to build a fort and watch 2 movies. But—" His voice dropped to a whisper. "I wish I could meet your friend with the cool car." "Maybe someday," Jessica replied, smoothing his unruly brown hair, the same shade as hers, but with cowlicks that never stayed put. "Be good for Melissa, okay? I'm always good," Noah insisted with the confidence only a 5-year-old could muster. Melissa appeared behind Noah, gently guiding him back toward the living room. "We're going to have an awesome time. Don't worry about a thing." She lowered her voice. "And don't you dare come home before midnight. You deserve this." At precisely 7 o'clock, Jessica's phone buzzed with a text from Frank announcing his arrival. With one last nervous check of her appearance, Jessica grabbed her purse and headed downstairs. Frank greeted her with a warm smile, holding the car door open. "You look lovely, Ms. Walsh." "Thank you, Frank. And please, call me Jessica." As they drove through the city, Jessica tried to calm her nerves by watching the familiar landscape transform into the upscale Back Bay area. When they pulled up to an elegant brownstone on Commonwealth Avenue, Jessica's anxiety spiked. This wasn't a restaurant as she'd expected, but clearly someone's home. Frank, noticing her hesitation, explained gently, "Mr. Reed thought you might prefer privacy for your dinner. This is his home, but I'll be nearby all evening. Just call if you need anything." The door opened before Jessica could even knock, revealing Marcus in dark slacks and a crisp white button-down shirt, sleeves rolled up to reveal strong forearms. Without his business suit, he looked more approachable, though no less striking. "Jessica," he said, his eyes taking in her appearance with unmistakable appreciation, "you look beautiful. Please, come in." The interior of Marcus's home was a perfect blend of historic architecture and modern comfort. High ceilings and original woodwork were complemented by contemporary furnishings in warm, inviting tones. It was luxurious without being ostentatious. "Your home is gorgeous," Jessica remarked, taking in the space. Thank you, I restored it myself. Well, with help from an actual construction crew, Marcus added, with a self-deprecating smile. Can I offer you a glass of wine, or something else? Wine would be nice, Jessica replied, following him into a warm kitchen that smelled deliciously of garlic and herbs. I hope you don't mind that I'm cooking for you rather than taking you to a restaurant, Marcus said, as he poured 2 glasses of deep red wine. I find restaurants don't always allow for real conversation. Jessica accepted the glass, surprised. You cook? Another skill from my single mom upbringing, he explained, moving to check something simmering on the stove. Mom worked 2 jobs. I either learned to cook or lived on cereal. The casual mention of his background eased some of Jessica's tension. Frank mentioned you were raised by a single mother. Marcus glanced up, a flicker of something, vulnerability, crossing his features. Frank talks too much, he said, but his tone was affectionate. Yes, it was just my mom and me. She worked as a hospital cleaner during the day and waitressed at night. Strongest person I've ever known. She must be very proud of you now, Jessica said, taking a small sip of the wine, which was undoubtedly the most expensive she'd ever tasted. Marcus's expression clouded momentarily. She passed away when I was in college. Cancer, but I like to think she would be. I'm so sorry, Jessica said softly. Marcus shook his head, as if clearing away the heaviness. Tell me about Noah. Frank says he's quite the character. Jessica's face brightened instantly. He's amazing. Smart, funny, obsessed with dinosaurs. He can tell you the difference between an Allosaurus and a T-Rex in great detail, which, fair warning, he will do if you ever meet him. I'd like that, Marcus said, with a sincerity that surprised her. I happen to know a thing or two about dinosaurs myself. Went through a serious paleontology phase as a kid. For the next hour, they fell into easy conversation as Marcus prepared the meal, a delicious pasta with scallops that Jessica couldn't stop complimenting. He asked thoughtful questions about her life, her work, her dreams, questions no one had bothered to ask in years. In turn, she learned about his journey from community college to starting his own company, the failures along the way, and his commitment to ethical development projects. Most developers buy property, kick out the existing tenants and build luxury condos, he explained as they moved to the living room with their wine after dinner. I made a rule early on. We never displace residents. Instead, we rehabilitate buildings while keeping the community intact. It's more expensive, but it's the right thing to do. That's remarkable, Jessica said, settling onto the comfortable sofa. Most businesses wouldn't care about the impact on families. Marcus sat beside her, his expression serious. I saw my mother struggle too hard to find safe, affordable housing. I won't be part of that problem. As the evening progressed, Jessica found herself more and more drawn to this complex man who combined business acumen with genuine compassion. When he smiled, really smiled, not the polite expression he'd worn at the restaurant, his whole face transformed, revealing a dimple in his right cheek that made her heart flutter embarrassingly. So, Marcus said, setting down his wine glass, I've been wondering all week, but why did you agree to that blind date with Brian? He doesn't seem your type. Jessica laughed softly. Honestly? Melissa wore me down. She's been trying to set me up for years. I usually say no, but she hesitated, then decided on honesty. Sometimes being alone gets hard. Not that I'm really alone. I have Noah. But adult conversation that doesn't revolve around insurance policies or dinosaurs is nice. Marcus's eyes held hers. I understand that feeling all too well. You, Jessica raised an eyebrow. Surely women are lining up to date successful, handsome Marcus Reed. Handsome, huh? He grinned before his expression turned more serious. There are plenty of women interested in dating what I represent. Wealth, status, connections, fewer who see past that. The vulnerability in his admission touched her. Before Jessica could respond, however, Marcus's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and frowned. I'm sorry, I need to take this. It's the hospital. Jessica's concern flared immediately. Hospital? Is everything okay? It's not an emergency, he assured her, standing. Just a call I've been expecting. Excuse me for a moment. As Marcus stepped into another room, Jessica noticed a framed photograph on the side table that she hadn't seen before. It showed a young boy, perhaps 8 or 9, with a woman in a hospital uniform. The boy was unmistakably a young Marcus, but something about the woman tugged at Jessica's memory. She picked up the frame, studying the woman's kind face, the distinctive way she tilted her head. "That's my mother," Marcus said, returning to the room. His voice sounded strained, different than before. Jessica replaced the frame carefully. "She has a kind face. You have her smile." Marcus didn't respond immediately, instead sitting back down with a strange intensity in his gaze. "Jessica, there's something I need to tell you. Something I should have mentioned sooner, but I wanted you to get to know me first." A cold feeling settled in Jessica's stomach. This was the moment where everything fell apart, where he revealed some complication that would shatter this wonderful evening. "The night we met at the restaurant," Marcus began, his voice careful. "It wasn't a coincidence." "What do you mean?" Jessica asked, her body tensing. Marcus took a deep breath. "I knew who you were before that night. I've known for a while now." Jessica stared at him, confusion and the first stirrings of fear mixing in her chest. "That's not possible. We'd never met." "Not directly, no." Marcus reached for his phone, pulled up a photo and handed it to her. "But I know this woman very well." Jessica looked down at the screen, then felt the air leave her lungs. The photo showed an elderly woman in a hospital bed, smiling weakly at the camera. It was Mrs. Hernandez, her neighbor, Noah's occasional babysitter, the kind woman who had become like a grandmother to them. "Mrs. Hernandez? I don't understand. How do you know her?" Marcus met her eyes steadily. "Her name is Elena Hernandez now, but she was Elena Reed. She's my aunt, my mother's sister." The revelation hit Jessica like a physical blow. "Your aunt? But that would mean—" "She's been telling me about you and Noah for almost 2 years, Marcus confirmed. "About the kind single mother next door who reminds her of my own mum. About the little boy who loves dinosaurs and brings her drawings." Jessica's mind raced, piecing together 100 small interactions in a new light. The times Mrs. Hernandez had mentioned her nephew who works in buildings, the occasional gifts for Noah that were just something my nephew picked up, the gentle questions about Jessica's dating life. "The blind date," Jessica said suddenly, a horrible suspicion forming. "Did you arrange that too? Was Brian even real?" Marcus looked genuinely shocked. "God, no, I would never do that to you. Brian is unfortunately very real, a friend of Melissa's cousin, just as she told you." "Then what did you arrange?" Jessica demanded, standing up. "Why am I really here?" Marcus stood too, his expression pained. "Aunt Elena has been trying to introduce us for months. I kept refusing because it felt manipulative. I wanted to meet you naturally, or not at all." He ran a hand through his hair in frustration. "Then I saw you at the restaurant that night. When Brian abandoned you, I told myself it was just a coincidence, a chance to help. But I recognized you from the photos Aunt Eleanor had shown me." "So you lied," Jessica said flatly. "You pretended not to know who I was." "Yes," Marcus admitted, "and I've regretted it every moment since. I should have been honest from the start." Jessica gathered her purse, her hands shaking slightly. "I think I should go. Jessica, please." Marcus didn't reach for her, didn't try to stop her physically, but his voice was urgent. "The connection between us tonight, that was real. Getting to know you these past few days has been the most genuine thing in my life in years." "How can I believe that?" Jessica asked, pain evident in her voice. "This whole thing has been built on a lie." As she headed for the door, Marcus called after her. "The hospital call tonight. It was about Aunt Elena. She had a minor stroke yesterday. She's stable, but—" Jessica froze, her hand on the doorknob. "Mrs. Hernandez is in the hospital? Why didn't you tell me immediately?" "She made me promise not to worry you," Marcus explained, his voice tight with emotion. "She doesn't want Noah to know she's sick." The anger in Jessica's chest collided with concern for the woman who had become so important in their lives. "Which hospital?" "Massachusetts General. I can take you to her right now if you'll let me." Jessica hesitated, torn between her hurt at the deception and her need to see Mrs. Hernandez, Elena, with her own eyes. "Please," Marcus said softly, "she'd love to see you." Jessica looked at him, really looked at him, trying to reconcile the man she'd been connecting with all evening with this new revelation. Behind his wealth and success, she saw genuine worry for his aunt and something else when he looked at her. Something that made her own heart respond despite her better judgment. "All right," she finally said. "Take me to her." What Jessica didn't know was that in Elena Hernandez's hospital room waited yet another revelation. one that would change everything she thought she knew about her life with Noah. The hospital corridor seemed endless as Jessica followed Marcus toward the room where Eleanor Hernandez, Mrs. Hernandez, was recovering. Jessica's mind still reeled from Marcus's revelation. All this time, the sweet elderly woman who had become like family to her and Noah had been quietly orchestrating a connection between her nephew and Jessica. "She's just down here," Marcus said softly, his usual confidence subdued by the sterile hospital environment. "The doctors say she'll make a full recovery, but she needs rest." Jessica nodded, her conflicted feelings about Marcus temporarily set aside by concern for Eleanor. "Does she know I'm coming?" "No. I didn't want to promise in case you decided not to come." His honesty was disarming. They paused outside room 412, and Marcus gently knocked before pushing the door open. Inside, propped up on pillows and looking smaller than Jessica had ever seen her, was Elena. Her face brightened immediately when she saw them. "Jessica! Marcus!" Elena exclaimed, her voice weaker than normal but filled with genuine delight. "Together! Finally!" Jessica moved to her bedside, taking the older woman's hand. "Mrs. Hernandez, Elena, why didn't you tell me you were in the hospital?" Elena waved dismissively with her free hand. "Pfft, just a little dizzy spell. Nothing for a young woman to worry about." Her eyes moved between Jessica and Marcus. "So, you two have met properly now." Jessica couldn't help but smile despite her lingering hurt. "Yes, though I just found out about your matchmaking scheme." "Not scheme," Elena corrected firmly. "Destiny. You two belong together. I knew it from the moment I met you, Jessica. You have the same heart as my sister. Marcus's mother, strong, loving." She squeezed Jessica's hand. "And you, Marcus, needed someone real, not those society women who only see your bank account." Marcus moved to the other side of the bed. "Aunt Eleanor, you should have let me tell Jessica the truth from the beginning." Eleanor's expression turned mischievous. "Would you have? Or would you have overthought everything like always?" She looked back at Jessica. "He analyzes everything to death, gets it from his father's side." Despite herself, Jessica laughed. The sound broke some of the tension in the room. "I have something to show you, Jessica," Elena said suddenly, her tone changing. "In my purse. The blue envelope." Marcus retrieved his aunt's purse from the side table and found the envelope. Elena nodded for him to hand it to Jessica. With curious fingers, Jessica opened it and pulled out an old photograph. It showed two women in their 20s, arms around each other, laughing at the camera. One was unmistakably a younger Elena. The other... Jessica felt the blood drain from her face. This is my mother." Eleanor nodded, tears forming in her eyes. "Maria Gomez, before she married your father and became Maria Walsh. We were nursing assistants together at this very hospital 30 years ago. Past friends for 5 years before she moved away when she got married." Jessica stared at the photo, her hand trembling slightly. Her mother had died when Jessica was 16, taking with her so many stories and memories Jessica had never had the chance to learn. "You knew my mother all this time?" "I didn't know at first," Elena explained. "Not until you mentioned your maiden name was Gomez. Then I saw her in you, her smile, the way you tilt your head when you're thinking. I found this photo and knew." "Why didn't you tell me?" Jessica whispered, still transfixed by the image of her young, vibrant mother. Elena's eyes were gentle. "I was waiting for the right moment. Then I realized what better connection than through my nephew, the son of her other best friend." Marcus looked as stunned as Jessica felt. "Your mother knew my mother," Elena nodded. "They were inseparable, the three of us, until Maria met Jessica's father and moved to Chicago. We lost touch over the years. This was before email and cell phones, you understand. When my sister, your mother Marcus, got sick, I tried to find Maria, but," she sighed, "life pulls people apart sometimes." Jessica sank into the chair beside the bed, overwhelmed. "So all of this, you moving into my building?" "Pure coincidence," Eleanor assured her. "I had no idea you were Maria's daughter until I'd already been your neighbor for months. But once I knew..." She smiled at Marcus. "I knew you had to meet my nephew. Your mothers would have wanted it." The room fell silent as Jessica and Marcus absorbed this revelation. Their mothers, best friends, decades ago. the connection between them extending back to before either of them was born. "I have more photos," Elena continued. "Stories about your mother I can share. She was wonderful, Jessica, so full of life, just like you." Jessica felt tears welling in her eyes. "I'd like that very much." The moment was interrupted by a nurse entering to check Elena's vitals. "I'm sorry, but visiting hours end in 15 minutes, and Mrs. Hernandez needs her rest." As the nurse worked, Jessica's gaze met Marcus's across the bed. The anger and betrayal she had felt earlier had shifted, softened by this new understanding of their intertwined histories. "I'll take you home," Marcus offered quietly when the nurse had gone. Eleanor reached for both their hands. "Promise you'll both come back tomorrow together." Jessica hesitated, then nodded. "Of course we will." Outside in the corridor, Marcus and Jessica walked in silence toward the elevator. When the doors closed, leaving them alone, Jessica finally spoke. "You really didn't know about our mothers?" Marcus shook his head. "I had no idea. Aunt Elena never mentioned it." He paused, then added, "I'm still sorry I wasn't honest from the beginning about knowing who you were." Jessica leaned against the elevator wall, emotionally exhausted. "I understand why you did it. I probably would have run in the opposite direction if I'd known." "And now?" Marcus asked carefully. The elevator doors opened, saving her from having to answer immediately. They walked through the quiet hospital lobby and out into the cool night air where Frank waited with the car. "Would you mind if we walk for a bit?" Jessica asked suddenly. "I need to clear my head." Marcus nodded, signaling to Frank that they'd be a while. They set off along the riverfront path, the city lights reflecting off the dark water. "I keep thinking about Noah," Jessica said, after a few minutes of companionable silence. "He adores Mrs. Hernandez, Elena. Finding out she's in the hospital will upset him." "We could bring him to visit tomorrow," Marcus suggested, "if you think it would help him to see that she's okay." The casual "we" wasn't lost on Jessica. She stopped walking, turning to face him. "Marcus, what is this? Between us, is it just because of our mother's connection or Eleanor's matchmaking?" Marcus met her gaze steadily. "I was attracted to you before I knew any of that. The woman I saw at the restaurant, brave, proud, kind, despite being treated badly, that's who I wanted to know." He took a step closer. "The woman I've gotten to know since then, devoted to her son, hard-working, resilient, that's who I'm falling for." The admission hung in the air between them. Jessica felt her heart racing. "I have a son. My whole life revolves around him. Any relationship I have includes him," Marcus finished. "I understand that, and I'm not scared of it. I'd like to meet him when you're ready." Jessica studied his face in the moonlight. "You're the CEO of a billion-dollar company. I'm an administrative assistant who can barely make rent sometimes. Our worlds are completely different." Marcus smiled softly. "Are they? We were both raised by single mothers who struggled to make ends meet. We both know what it means to work hard for everything we have. The difference is just time and opportunity." He reached for her hand tentatively. "I'm not asking for forever tonight, Jessica. Just a chance to see where this might go." Jessica looked down at their joined hands, then back up at his face. In his eyes, she saw something rare and precious, genuine understanding. Not pity for her circumstances, not fascination with her real-world experiences, but recognition of a kindred spirit. "Okay," she said quietly. "A chance." His smile was worth the risk. The next afternoon, Jessica brought Noah to the hospital. She'd explained that his beloved Mrs. Hernandez was feeling a little sick, but would be home soon. What she hadn't prepared him for was meeting Marcus. "Is that him? The man with the cool car?" Noah whispered loudly as they approached Elena's room, spotting Marcus waiting in the hallway with a small gift bag. "Yes, that's him," Jessica confirmed, suddenly nervous. "His name is Marcus, and he's Mrs. Hernandez's nephew." Noah's eyes widened. "Whoa, does that mean Frank is her nephew too?" Jessica laughed. "No, Frank works for Marcus." Marcus approached them, crouching down to Noah's level. "You must be Noah. I've heard you're the world's foremost dinosaur expert." Noah straightened proudly. "I know all of them, even the ones with really long names like Pachycephalosaurus." "Impressive," Marcus said with genuine appreciation. "I brought something for you." He offered the gift bag. "Your mum said it was okay." Inside was a museum-quality fossil cast of a velociraptor claw. Noah's jaw dropped in astonishment. "This is real!" he gasped, holding it reverently. "It's a replica," Marcus explained. But it's exactly the size and shape of a real one. Noah looked up at Marcus with newfound respect. This is the coolest thing ever. Over Eleanor's hospital bed, their relationship deepened. Eleanor shared stories of Jessica's mother that filled in gaps Jessica had carried her whole adult life. Noah appointed Marcus his official dinosaur consultant, a role Marcus took very seriously. When Elena was released 3 days later, it seemed natural that they would all help settle her back into her apartment. The weeks that followed brought changes none of them could have anticipated. Elena's health scare had made her reconsider living alone, and Marcus offered her a beautiful apartment in one of his buildings with a live-in nurse. To everyone's surprise, she accepted, on the condition that Jessica and Noah move into the same building. "I'm not ready to stop being Noah's honorary grandmother," she insisted. The new apartment was beyond anything Jessica could have afforded, spacious, with large windows and a second bedroom for Noah that Marcus helped him decorate with a dinosaur mural. When Jessica protested that she couldn't possibly accept such generosity, Marcus had a simple answer. "It's not charity, it's family. Our mothers would have wanted this." 6 months later, on a crisp autumn evening, Marcus invited Jessica to the rooftop garden of their building. Fairy lights twinkled around them, and the city spread out below like a carpet of stars. "I have something to ask you," Marcus said, taking her hands in his. "The past months have been the happiest of my life. Being with you and Noah, it's shown me what really matters." Jessica's heart skipped as Marcus knelt before her, a small velvet box in his hand. "Jessica Walsh, our story began long before we ever met, through our mother's friendship. I believe they brought us together for a reason." He opened the box, revealing a stunning yet elegant diamond ring. "Would you do me the extraordinary honor of becoming my wife?" Tears filled Jessica's eyes as she nodded. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes." As he slipped the ring onto her finger, Jessica thought of the night at Bellini's, when a blind date's abandonment had set her on this unexpected path. From being left with only $7 to her name, to finding love, family, and a connection to her past she'd never imagined possible. Later that night, when they told Noah about their engagement, his response was typical 5-year-old logic. "Does this mean Frank will drive us everywhere now?" They laughed, and Jessica caught Elena wiping away happy tears from the corner. Two mothers, friends in life, had somehow guided their children to each other across time and circumstance. As Marcus pulled her close, Jessica felt for perhaps the first time in her adult life that she was exactly where she was meant to be, not alone anymore, but surrounded by a family that had been waiting for her all along. From $7 to a second chance at love, Jessica's journey had come full circle, and this time no one was leaving her behind.